Konate basically said, well, I'm going to have to make myself, declare myself fit. And I think he probably shared a bit too much, really, in that press conference for the Lille game, where he said he was having painkiller injections just because they had no other centre-backs. And I really think Liverpool would have liked them to reveal that. But
they're signing a centre-back in the summer, and they already know who it is. And then lo and behold,
he emerged into our lives.
Yeah.
So, Jérémy Jacquet, who, I'll be honest, I was only aware of him because I'd seen him linked with Chelsea earlier in this window, and it looked as though it was a deal that was progressing with Chelsea.
The reality is most people haven't seen him play.
Yes. Chelsea have got loads of centre-backs, which Jérémy might have realised, and he's now gone, no, I'm going to Liverpool instead. We reckon 55 million plus 5, is it?
Seems to be.
For 20-year-olds, 21 in the summer, looks very good. Everyone's very excited. And it looks like a deal that Liverpool have obviously moved quickly to beat the competition to.
Yeah, so it's progressed rapidly over the weekend, hasn't it? Liverpool have nudged ahead of Chelsea, and to be fair, it probably shows good bit of common sense from Jacquet and his representatives. I think that Chelsea's stockpiling players, and half of them go to Strasbourg, and the other half probably get sold. No, I couldn't believe it today. Axel Disasi is going to West Ham United, having struggled at Aston Villa.
Yeah,
he signed him 2.5 years ago when he was 23, I think, and
just ruined his career.
I think they paid about £1 million an appearance for him while he's been at Chelsea. He's been surplus to requirements for a while. He was in that sort of infamous bomb squad with Raheem Sterling, and now he's moving to his second club of the season, is it? And his best years have almost passed him by now, because he made ultimately the mistake of opting to go to Chelsea when we could have. I'm not really sure what options he would have had, but it's just almost just to encapsulate what Chelsea are at the moment, doesn't it? So
was it a disaster?
It's a disastrous move, yeah. But so maybe Jacquet has looked at Disasi and players of his ilk who moved to Chelsea and not got anywhere near that first team, or the fact that they seem to have loads of centre backs as it is around the squad, and decided that there's more chance of him getting a game at Liverpool, where Ibrahima Konate may or may not be part of the squad next summer. Giovanni Leone will be on his way back from a serious long-term injury, and is young and inexperienced, certainly hasn't kicked the ball in the Premier League. Joe Gomez, we'll see what happens with him. There was interest from AC Milan, wasn't there, in the summer? Might have moved had Mark A joined. So it's an interesting time for Liverpool's centre-back department. It's going to be all change, I suspect. And the one constant will be Virgil van Dijk, who will be 35 in July. So it's Liverpool really getting the ducks in a row now at centre-back, and we were just talking before, weren't we? This is the 5th one that's been signed since August.
Yeah. Leone, obviously, we know with the injury, but some younger players have been added, haven't they? They've gone out and identified promising young centre backs, and they've made it a priority. Clearly.
Yeah. So they got obviously more talent than I have. They got him in from Senegal. He played for Senegal at the Under-17 World Cup in Qatar in November. Ifeanyi Ndukwe, is it, from Austria Vienna? He doesn't turn 18 until March, so he's joining in the summer. And they've signed the lad from Burnley as well as I can't quite pronounce his name.
He's more of an academy player though. The other two are seen more as they could be players that they could develop.
Yeah. So if you throw them three in with Leone and Jacquet either side of them, that's 5 centre backs aged between 17 and 20 in 5 months. So clearly there is a longer term vision at centre back, but for all the sorts of planning that you're doing, I'd also like to see someone ready-made come into the team. Is Jacquet that? He's only 20. Sure, he's got a huge upside, and that's why Liverpool are paying the money for him. But I'd probably like to see someone else come in alongside him in the summer.
Do we think going ahead another year that Quance is an option?
Well, he will be, yeah. I mean, Liverpool do have
clause in the deal.
Then you'd be looking at it as though Quance would be about 24, possibly 25.
And he'll have 100 games under his belt.
And then these two would have had a season. So suddenly you've got 3 younger centre-backs, and then it's whether Van Dijk decides to stick around for another year or not, I suspect.
I think with
Gomez could easily assume the Van Dijk, but I don't think he will.
With centre-backs, it is, this Jacquet is very young, and you always think, Virgil van Dijk at the age of 20, 21 wasn't anywhere near on the trajectory of the player that he's become. So So it is going to, and not all of these lads, these ones that have been added, not all of them are going to be roaring successes, but they've been decisive, haven't they? And they've moved for this player when it looked like he was going elsewhere. So I think whilst we'd all like to have seen an addition come in who can play right now, it's clearly a move that it's a market opportunity that they've seen and they've gone for it, and they're getting the plaudits for it today, and you can say, yeah, fair enough. It's a good move.
If you were looking ideally at which 4 centre backs you'd have and the profiles, you would prefer, if there's going to be a couple of them, they are the younger ones, and you'd want one that's kind of in the prime, and then you'd want one that's or just approaching the prime, and then one that's kind of just going off the other side. Maybe 29, 30, 31 because they've got a bit more experience. And if you look at Liverpool over the years, it's normally been round about that. Certainly the most successful teams, even going back to probably not as many centre backs, but even in the 70s and 80s, they always had one that was a bit younger, one that was in the middle, and then one that was still getting towards the end. So it's that position, isn't it, where if you've got a 35-year-old striker, you'd be mildly concerned, but you're a lot less concerned if you've got a 35-year-old centre-back or a 35-year-old goalkeeper.
I think it's harder to judge defenders as well.
Yeah.
You can see a clip of an attacking player that your team is signing, and you can instantly recognise what talent is. A great finish, long shots, dribbling, whatever. But defending's systemic, isn't it? You defend as a unit, as a back four, as a back five. So it's harder to say who's good and who isn't, really, if you're not watching these teams every week. So clearly, I think there has to be a little bit of an element of trust with the recruitment department, but I think Liverpool have certainly earned that, haven't they, with the players that they've signed over the last 10 years. How many genuine duds can you count? There's not many at all, is there? So clearly they feel that him and Leone are 2 young players worth investing the best part of 100 million, and really, 60 million and was it 26? So it's they're clearly planning for the long term. But I just like Doyle mentions there, in terms of the profiles that you want in your squad, I feel like if Konate is to leave, and it is sort of heading towards that at this point, isn't it? You'd have to say, then I'd like to see a sort of ready-made player who's 24, 25 coming alongside them.
Yeah, I think Saturday was a reminder, wasn't it, that for all the stuff around Konate, on his day, he's a fantastic centre-back.
Well, he's played in the World Cup final, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He's played in the Champions League final. But he's kind of got all that experience. When he arrived at Liverpool, he wasn't particularly old. In fact, when he arrived at Liverpool, he had Gomez had got quite a few years under his belt. You had Van Dijk and Matip was there. So he was learning off those. So that is, that's what Liverpool would be looking at. I mean, I was going to say something then about the centre-backs, and I completely forgot what it is, so just continue.
But I thought Konate was excellent on Saturday. I think it was best games for a while.
And circumstances around it and everything else, and very emotional at the end.
Yeah, and do you know what? Fair play to him for realising that the team was in need of a centre-back, someone to step up and put his hand up and came back from his compassionate leave. And it reminded me a little bit when I heard Slot say that, of when Konate rushed himself back last season when Gomez got injured at West Ham. Konate basically said, well, I'm going to have to make myself, declare myself fit. And I think he probably shared a bit too much, really, in that press conference for the Lille game, where he said he was having painkiller injections just because they had no other centre-backs. And I really think Liverpool would have liked him to reveal that. But it shows you that he's willing to go above and beyond to help the team. And I think he's become, he's a really sort of likeable character in that dressing room, isn't he? And clearly popular within the dressing room, and good on him. I hope he builds on it with more performances like Saturday, really.
This is the Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo, giving you the inside track on all the big talking points from Anfield.